Mariana Trench. It sits in the western Pacific Ocean and reaches depths that most people can barely imagine. At its lowest point, the water pressure is over 1,000 times greater than what we experience at sea level. Only a handful of humans have ever descended to its deepest zone, and even robotic missions have only scratched the surface of what lives and exists down there. The trench stretches for nearly 2,500 kilometers, and vast sections of it have never been closely examined. What little we know suggests that life finds a way even in complete darkness and crushing pressure, but the full picture remains out of reach. Antarctica's subglacial lakes. Hidden beneath kilometers of ice across the Antarctic continent, hundreds of lakes exist in near total isolation. Some of them have been sealed off from the outside world for millions of years, kept liquid by geothermal heat rising from below and the insulating weight of ice above. Lake Vostok is the most well-known, roughly the size of Lake Ontario. Scientists drilled into it after decades of effort and found microbial life, raising immediate questions about what else might be living in these forgotten waters. Each lake is essentially a sealed time capsule holding water and potentially organisms that evolved completely independently from the rest of life on Earth. North Sentinel Island. It lies in the Bay of Bengal, part of India's Andaman archipelago, and it is home to the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted peoples on the planet. The Indian government has restricted access to protect both the islanders and outsiders, since the Sentinelese have made clear they do not want contact. As a result, the interior of the island has never been documented by researchers. We have aerial photographs of the coastline and forest canopy, but what lies beneath that canopy remains entirely unknown. It is a rare case where a place stays unexplored not because of physical difficulty, but because of a deliberate and respected boundary. The Southern Ocean Deep Seafloor. The waters surrounding Antarctica are among the most hostile on Earth. Unpredictable weather, drifting icebergs, and vast distances have made systematic mapping nearly impossible. Yet the seafloor beneath these waters holds enormous geological and biological significance. Researchers who have managed to send equipment down have regularly discovered species previously unknown to science. Mountain ranges, deep valleys, and unusual sediment formations have been detected through sonar, but close-up study remains rare. This part of the ocean floor may hold important clues about Antarctic ice sheet history and global sea level changes. Movile Cave. A construction worker in Romania accidentally discovered it in 1986, and what scientists found inside was completely unexpected. The cave had been sealed from the outside world for an estimated 5 million years. Without sunlight, the ecosystem inside runs entirely on chemosynthesis, where bacteria convert hydrogen sulfide into energy. These bacteria support spiders, centipedes, leeches, and dozens of other invertebrates, many blind and pale from generations of life in the dark. More than 30 species found inside Movile exist nowhere else on Earth. It remains one of the most striking examples of isolated life ever discovered, the Amazon rainforest interior. Even today, with satellite imagery and advanced equipment, significant portions of the Amazon remain effectively inaccessible. Dense vegetation makes ground travel extremely difficult, and seasonal flooding cuts off regions for months at a time. The sheer scale of the basin means many areas simply haven't had researchers reach them in any systematic way. Scientists regularly report new plant and animal species from Amazonian expeditions. Archaeological discoveries have also shown that the forest once supported large, complex civilizations that we are only beginning to understand. The Congo Basin. Africa's second largest rainforest covers parts of several Central African nations and remains one of the most biologically rich and least studied regions on Earth. Infrastructure is limited, political instability has historically made research difficult, and the terrain is dense and unforgiving. Yet what scientists have documented from accessible areas is remarkable. New primate species, fish, and plant varieties continue to be identified. What remains hidden in the less explored interior is an open question, but researchers consistently argue the Congo Basin deserves far more scientific attention than it currently receives. The Greenland ice sheet bedrock. Greenland is the world's largest island, and most of it is buried under ice that, in some places, reaches 3 kilometers thick. Beneath that ice lies an ancient and largely unknown landscape. Scientists using radar surveys have discovered buried mountains, valleys carved by rivers that haven't flowed in millions of years, and geological formations that challenge earlier assumptions. Understanding the bedrock shape helps scientists model how the ice sheet might behave as the climate changes and how quickly it could contribute to rising sea levels. Krubera Cave. Found in the Caucasus Mountains near the Black Sea coast, Krubera held the record for the world's deepest known cave for many years. Explorers have descended more than 2 kilometers below the surface, a journey that takes days and requires navigating through narrow passages, underground rivers, and vertical drops. Despite numerous expeditions since the 1960s, many of its side passages and lower sections remain completely unmapped. Researchers have found freshwater amphipods and other invertebrates living in its deepest reaches, suggesting that life persists even at those extremes. The new Hebrides Trench. Located in the South Pacific near Vanuatu, this ocean trench reaches depths of over 7 kilometers. Unlike more famous deep-sea locations, it has attracted relatively little scientific attention. The few studies conducted suggest unusual geological activity and potentially distinct biological communities, but the data is sparse. Its remoteness and the high cost of deep-sea exploration have kept it off the priority list for most research programs. What lies along its walls and floor remains largely unanswered. The Gamburtsev Mountains. One of the stranger discoveries of the 20th century was a full mountain range hidden beneath Antarctica's ice. The Gamburtsev stretch for about 1,200 kilometers and reach peaks of over 3,000 meters, comparable to the Alps, yet no one has ever seen them. Scientists mapped them using radar surveys and seismic data. They appear to be ancient, but the ice has kept them in unusually sharp condition. How they formed and why they haven't eroded the way most ancient ranges have is still debated among geologists. The ocean's abyssal plains. They cover more than half of Earth's surface, making them the planet's most expansive environment. For most of scientific history, they were assumed to be barren and largely irrelevant. More recent research has completely changed that view. The abyssal plains support diverse communities of organisms, including sea cucumbers, polychaete worms, and fish adapted to near freezing temperatures and complete darkness. They also contain ancient impact craters and sediment deposits that record millions of years of Earth history. Despite covering so much of the planet, we have detailed maps of only a small fraction of their total area. Siberian permafrost depths. Across much of northern Russia, the ground remains frozen year-round to depths that can exceed a kilometer. Within this frozen ground, scientists have found preserved woolly mammoths, ancient plant seeds, and ice age soil layers containing a record of past climates stretching back tens of thousands of years. Researchers have even revived ancient microorganisms recovered from deep permafrost cores. As warming temperatures thaw the upper layers, gases and organic material locked away for millennia are beginning to release, with consequences for the global climate that scientists are still working to quantify. Mulu Cave System. Gunung Mulu National Park in Malaysian Borneo contains one of the most extraordinary cave systems on Earth. The Sarawak Chamber is considered the largest known cave chamber by area, large enough to hold dozens of jumbo jets. Despite decades of exploration since the 1970s, the system's full extent has never been mapped. Thousands of bats and swiftlets inhabit parts of the cave, and unique species adapted to subterranean life have been found throughout. New passages continue to be discovered, some requiring technical climbing or diving to access. The Mid-Ocean Ridge System. Running for more than 65,000 kilometers across the ocean floor, This is the longest continuous mountain range on Earth, and most people have never heard of it. The ridge winds through every major ocean basin, marking the boundaries where tectonic plates pull apart and new seafloor is created. Along its length, hydrothermal vents release superheated water rich in minerals. And around these vents, entire ecosystems thrive without any dependence on sunlight. Despite its enormous scale, only a small fraction has been closely examined. Each new expedition tends to uncover species, formations, or processes that weren't previously documented.